Happy Friday. It is DC Dispatch time. I'm actually on assignment today, but it was a great week to share with you our favorite moments and some really bombshell interviews. So keep it locked in here to see a best of here for your Friday.
This American Eagle ad that has gone viral, not because, it's a great ad or anything, which I don't know. I don't think it's bad. It's great compared to what it used to be. Not too long ago, American Eagle tried to go woke and probably went broke because of it. So now they're really changing their tune. And now they have Hollywood actress Sydney Sweeney modeling a pair of jeans, and the left cannot handle it. They're saying this is Nazi propaganda. I'm not even kidding you. Just take a look at this.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney, Casper jeans.
You guys are complaining about that Sydney Sweeney jeans ad, so I went and saw it.
That's Nazi propaganda. Wow.
I thought it was gonna be like kind of bad.
That's gonna be in history books.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
It's so ridiculous, and it's like so obvious they're raging with jealousy. And I mean, come on, it's a joke. It's a play on words. It's a double entendre. It's funny. I mean, come on. I mean, although I think, we can pick apart overly sexy or whatever and get mad about that. But I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's just they're mad because these are the people that were being glorified before. The non-binary, the edgy, the fat. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The fat models. And now that they're going back to like pretty, they can't handle it.
They can't handle it. They hate anything that is all American and, attractive, things that, a guy might actually want to look at. They're all about just being as ugly and grotesque as humanly possible. And yeah, you're right. They're bitter. That is no longer a thing. They're bitter. That's no longer in. And that many companies, not just American Eagle, are moving away from it. The good news here, though, is that the radical progressives account for such a tiny percent of the population that if they're so upset about this and they try to implement some sort of boycott, like, they will, it'll probably not be too effective like, it was with Target and Budweiser when conservatives actually stood up for traditional values and refused to shop there and spend their money with these woke companies. So, they can try to boycott all they want and post all these stupid social media videos, but it's probably not going to make too much of a dent in the situation. And I think perhaps will only inspire more companies to continue on this path because clearly this is what the people want.
Open Doors just released its 2025 World Watch List preview showing violence against Christians has spiked again with over 6,200 killings reported globally in the first half of 2025. That's a jump from last year's total. Nigeria remains a hotspot with 4,100 deaths linked to Fulani and Boko Haram attacks since January, while India saw 300 churches damaged in June alone due to Hindu extremist clashes. Right Scoop is reporting over 40 Christians were just recently brutally murdered in a Catholic church in the Democratic Republic of Congo by Islamist rebels over the weekend. That happened, like I said, just over the weekend. Local leaders saying the attack happened in the east with the allied democratic forces claiming responsibility, and families just left mourning as this violence escalates. Here to discuss the persecution of Christians is Jeff King. He's the president of International Christian Concern since 2023 and one of the world's top experts on religious persecution. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
Christy, it's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. Yes, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I definitely wasn't shielded from that Christians get ruthfully persecuted. My mom was always a big fan of Voice of the Martyrs. I'm sure you're familiar with that organization. I would always ask her, why are you reading such horrible things, like torture of horrible things happening? And I would see her, she'd be reading these stories and like crying. And she's like, I look at it as a sacrifice, like that I'm it's like almost like an intercessory prayer thing. She viewed it. She felt like it was like something she needed to do, and it really stuck with me. Like we even had these bracelets that said "bound with them," and it's a fascinating topic. Also, because I come from, my background is in traditional news media, to put it nicely, mainstream news media. And this is definitely something that was not ever covered, really.
Nope.
Mainstream media seems obsessed with persecution, obsessed with, if it bleeds, it leads, all that kind of stuff, except for when it comes to Christians being persecuted. But you being somebody that is an expert on religious persecution in general, why is it that this is a problem that is so easily ignored?
Well, as you know, Christy, if you survey journalists today, and this is going back, 50 years, they're overwhelmingly liberal. So at best, they're neutral towards Christianity. A lot of them are hostile. So look, it just gets buried. And so then what happens is it's better than what it used to be. But generally what happens then is then the pastor's uninformed and the masses of believers are uninformed. So that's the deal.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. And I know that one of your latest articles was what happened in particular Indonesia. Can you tell me the details of that situation?
Well, I think I was going to hit on India. So in India, back on July 13th, there was an attack on a church, and radical Hindus came into the church and beat up the people in worshiping, as well as the pastor. Chrissy, unfortunately, it's almost not news. It just happens on and on and on. So the real headline is why? Why does this keep going on? Why is the Prime Minister of India silent on this, as well as his political party?
Yeah, I mean that is wild that they're remaining silent on this. We're in a situation where we have an administration that I think posits that it's Christian friendly, and that it is. We hear Trump talk about how God saved his life from a bullet, things like that. But is enough being done to elevate these concerns? And with a administration that is so America first, does that mean that we leave these Christians out to dry that are in these other countries? I mean, what are your insights there?
Well, I've been in DC. Well, I grew up in DC. I've been here all my life, but 20 years in advocacy. And so something you learn is that religious freedom is always going to take a backseat to general, U.S. interests. That being said, President Trump has been a very faithful friend to persecuted Christians. We always wish more could be done. But in the past, he has been willing to go out and name and shame. And that is really the greatest tool we have, is for the U.S. president to name and shame and just bring attention. So even like the India situation we're talking about, they are intensely interested in trade, in making money. So anything that upsets that order of balance is going to get attention real quick back home. So President Trump has called out different leaders in the Oval Office, in the gardens, in press events. Very helpful.
Excellent. I did see on your website, which I encourage people to check out, persecution.org, something of a win, you could say, that a Pakistan court denied a Muslim man custody of a Christian girl. Can you tell me a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, boy, oh boy, this is a heartbreaker. And Chrissy, this, first of all, so what happens is if you're a Christian girl, oftentimes what happens is you'll have Muslim suitors, around you saying, you're too pretty to be a Christian, you need to be my wife. And if she refuses, which is often the case, what happens is she could be kidnapped. So she's kidnapped, she's drugged, she's forcibly married, in quotes, she's raped repeatedly. And then she's, you think of in a very fundamentalist society, she is ruined socially. And so at that point, they kind of give up. And the police are involved too. So they will help the kidnappers keep the girls. And so the daughter is gone. She's gone for life. All of a sudden, poof. And this is including when the parents know who kidnapped. So back to the case. That's the broad picture. Back to the case you're mentioning. This is where we're really seeing the courts in Pakistan step up for the first time. Not necessarily the first time, but very rarely has this happened where the court said, no, this girl must be returned to her parents. So that's basically what's going on. On the one hand, super encouraging that we see the Pakistani courts doing this, but a day late, a dollar short, and we need to see a whole bunch more.
No, I mean, we're kind of focusing on global, obviously, when we're talking about India, but just in the live show here on LindellTV, DC Dispatch, that I have daily, we were talking about a case of parents that were being held accountable for plotting to kill their daughter because they were trying to bring her to Iraq against her will to marry. So, I mean, this has really infiltrated America. And I mean, even with Trump's efforts to deport and everything, like there's already like almost a point of no return on some of these things, like with the infiltration that has happened in our country. Do you feel that way?
It's such a complicated subject. So first of all, I couldn't argue too much of what's happened with the inundation of Muslims. And the majority of Muslims, I would say, if you poll them in the U.S., they tend to be much more mainstream than elsewhere in the world. And yet we have our huge share of radicalized Muslims. Almost all the mosques in America have been built with Saudi funds or Gulf funds. And these are absolutely fundamentalist, the most radical imams out there. And so they're going to have more and more influence over time. And we've seen these kinds of honor killings. The only thing I'd like to get across to Christians, and I know you'll get this, is that the Lord brought these here. So oftentimes they can't be reached in their own country. But the Lord brought them here where they can be reached with the gospel. And they're a very hospitable people. So I always urge people, reach out. What changes our heart? It's the love of Christ. When we encounter it, it breaks us. And that's no different, especially, in fact, it works especially well with Muslim believers. All they know is a God of law and of justice, a very harsh, stern God. When they encounter Jesus and they see his people reaching out in love, they're very susceptible to the gospel.
I do find that to be the case, and you wouldn't necessarily think so. I think there's a lot of Christians that would be almost afraid to share the gospel with Muslims. But I mean, just as you were talking, I happen to recall a circumstance way back when I was in community college, and this was just after the 9/11 attacks. And so anybody that even looked Middle Eastern was definitely like being looked at a certain way.
You bet. Very wary,
they were having a lot of hostility. So I had a young gentleman in one of my classes, and I was able to just talk, and he was kind of able to like vent out, I guess, if you will, like that he was afraid because everyone was looking a certain kind of way. This had just happened. And I was able to share the gospel with him. To this day, I don't know if it's a seed that grew or seed that was planted, but I found him to be receptive because I was just kind and unassuming and loving. And that was at a time when they were not getting that. Let's face it. Everyone was like, we need to go to the Middle East and abolish these people that
dropping bombs.
Exactly. That was the sentiment.
Yeah, and it still is really with a lot of people. And it's a misunderstanding really of what nation we belong to first, right? We belong first to the nation of God. And so another way to look at this is that Muslims, they're followers of a religion. That's Islam. But the Muslim is the person. And Islam was created as a giant jail spiritually. Okay, and those people are locked up. The Lord longs to free them. Oh my gosh. His heart bleeds for these people, and he's bringing the gospel to them. More Muslims have come to Christ in the last 30 years than in all of history combined previously. It's unbelievable what's going on. In Iran, Islam is largely dead in Iran. And guess where the fastest growing church in the world is? Iran. Wow. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
So
It was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, and I think another point to reach them, I mean, is just this whole concept of grace. Like Islam lacks the fundamental of Christianity, which is this loving grace. And I kind of have new eyes on that. My husband was raised Mormon, and he still struggles like with the religion of Mormon, that it really lacks grace, and he still has, like, I feel like, trauma of just not being able to fully accept that he has grace. And so it's been eye-opening that so many of these other religions lack that concept of grace. And so if we can show them that and share what it means to have grace, like, it would just be so compelling. Now, again, it's so shocking to me that that Christianity would be so fast growing in Iran, because you would think, like, gosh, I'd be scared to go there. It's kind of like one of those things.
Yeah.
But that being said, where is it to be, I guess, where is it most dangerous to be a Christian right now? Is it, I think we think of places like China, but, like, as I mentioned earlier, Nigeria, where is it the persecution of Christians most ramped up right now?
Well, there's two places I always point to, and North Korea is the one. And so people, I think, have a general idea of, oh my gosh, yes, that's a terrible place. And it's really hard to understand. It's such a foreign satanic place. I'll never forget. I've interviewed so many defectors from North Korea, and I just will always remember this one man, and he was a government loyalist. And so a staunch communist until he ran afoul and came under suspicion for no reason. And then he was locked up and horribly tortured. And he said to this day that when he goes to sleep, he has to have headphones on with loud blaring music to keep the demons at bay. And that man was not a Christian. And I asked him, I said, what has kept you from coming to Christ? But you can imagine in that case where your whole worldview is fake. And so for him to embrace Christianity, it's often very hard because everything they were taught turned out to be a lie. So they tend to be very cautious. But North Korea, absolutely terrible place. But at the same time, I think Nigeria is the center killing ground for Christians. And Chrissy, as you know, in the last 20 years, probably almost 100,000 Christians have been killed. 3.5 million Christian farmers have had their lands taken. And you'll never believe what's going on. It's like year after year, the government there can't seem to arrest anybody. They don't chase the attackers. They continually come to Washington and say, our dear friends in Washington, this is such a terrible thing, but it's a bush war. It's guerrilla fighting. We can't figure out how to stop this. Could you give us money for arms to fight this? And then we just gave them $1 billion. Now, here's the inside scoop. Imagine in our country if, I'm trying to think, let's say 500,000 Christians have been murdered in the last 20 years, and the government says we can't figure out how to do anything. It's so complicated. It doesn't work. When it goes on for 20 years, the fix is in. And we all understand the deep state now, right? So this is an radicalized Islamic deep state that's really running the show in Nigeria. And so it's a stealth jihad. And it's a slow-mo genocide. That's what's going on.
That's really, really sad, but it gives us something specific to pray for there. I did notice also on your website, persecution.org, that there is a new bill that is drawing attention to this, condemning Christian persecution, particularly in Muslim majority nations. Now, the obvious question is like, okay, what does this bill do? How can this bill actually help protect Christians?
Yeah, I think it falls into that category we talked about before, where it's the name and shame, and to come out, and it's really a reaction to 2 decades of stupidity, where it's not complete stupidity. Well, basically, what happens, over the last 20 years, no one can say Islam, radicalized Islam, is evil for some reason, and it kind of gets blurred over the lines of our racial politics over the years and our missteps. But so this is basically trying to write that to say, hey, wait a minute, radical Islam is extremely destructive, extremely dangerous. And we're seeing the rise of anti-Semitism here. So it's a backlash with those two things, with anti-Semitism and just the desire to start speaking plainly and to say, to name and shame and to call out the perpetrators.
It does seem like that narrative of anti-Semitism, which we have seen, it does seem like that gets a lot more attention, though, than the plight of Christians. Again, is there some kind of special interest involved that we hear more about, say, that particular group as opposed to Christians who've been relentlessly persecuted for many, many years?
Wow, what a complicated but fascinating subject. So I'd say, well, there's any number of things. But first of all, look at what the Jews went through, the level of persecution. And so there's very much a never again mentality, and, where they could be wiped out entirely. So they're hyper vigilant. And Jews are very political aware. They're very educated. And at the same time, we give Israel, multi-billion dollars per year in aid, and a lot of that aid comes right back to influence legislators. So that's tied in. I think it's warranted to be hypervigilant on anti-Semitism, but that's kind of part of the background of it.
So part of the point of having you on today was to make sure that this continues to be, that attention is given, that we're aware of what Christians are going through and suffering around the globe. But what's the next step? Obviously, prayer. We need to consciously pray and intercess for our fellow brothers and sisters around the world. Is there anything else we can do as believers?
Yeah, I love that question. And I was thinking about your mother when you were telling that wonderful story. Oh my gosh. And I was smiling because I thought you were going to go in a certain direction. This is what I hear all the time. And I bet your mother would have said this or would say this to this day. And I'd say people get hooked on the persecuted church. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason your mother did it. Because what you're seeing, if you boil it down, what you're seeing is biblical Christianity. It's the book of Acts. And it's still going on. And so what, the martyrs, the persecuted, are whispering to us all the time. And Christianity in our own country is very off. What we're experiencing is really weak Christianity. And they are calling to us. They're whispering to us and saying, here is the way to orient your life so that God is at the center. That's where I start. I say, first of all, follow. So if you're not reading our magazine at persecution.org, read another newsletter so you start to understand and start to hear, because we're all so busy. Anything I say isn't going to make a difference. So I say, first of all, learn, understand, and then let the Lord disciple you through these believers. And then everything else falls into place.
I love that. And I think it's just so important because, I started this whole segment with the, celebration that more people are coming back to church, but that is so surface level unless we feed them. There's become this obsession with like bringing people to the Lord and all that. That's well and good. The rise of megachurches and everything, like welcome everyone. And that's great. But, we are failing people if then we don't feed them and we also don't prepare them for the reality of biblical Christianity, which means it's not necessarily going to be abundance or all rainbows and butterflies and you feel good. Sometimes doesn't feel good to be a Christian. And we do need to prepare people for that, particularly as we know that many of us have been through a low level of persecution, having been through the pandemic and trying to fight for our freedoms to even meet in church. And so we just need to be prepared for anything that can come down the pike, and also see that it's happening right now, that there's intense persecution. Just because it's not happening in your backyard doesn't mean it's not happening. And I love how you frame that. Like, the more that we read about what's going on, that can minister to our souls and inspire us and yes, just be so much more effective. So I love that. So again, Jeff King, International Christian Crisis President, and persecution.org. So we can continue to read from persecution.org. And then is there anything else that we should know or do?
There's so much more. Like I said, I'd say start by getting the magazine and start reading about your brothers and sisters. And from there, when attacks happen, then you can be clued in to call your legislator. And that's the big thing. But the first thing I think we need is as believers in this country is our hearts need to be revived. We need to fall back in love with the Lord. That's what the persecuted church is teaching us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Keep us in the loop because I would love to be a part of keeping this in the conversation.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever, and in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver. Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Here to discuss is a DHS whistleblower who identified that MS-13, 18th Street gang members were sponsoring these poor children, and perhaps that's what's led to so many of them missing. Aaron Stevenson, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks. How are you?
Really good. I'm really looking forward to talking to you because we've gotten a lot of different talking points in recent days. You have Stephen Miller saying like, oh my gosh, there was even more missing than you were even told. It's like more closer to 400,000 plus when before we were told 300,000 plus. And then we were getting some, like News Nation was reporting, hey, this administration, we found 14,000 kids, which is a small drop in the bucket when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of children missing anyway. But you can share some insight on this. What's going on? Where are these kids?
I think Mr. Miller is correct when he says the number of kids is obviously higher. The number that Americans consistently go to is the reported number that HHS OIG delivers of how many missing kids in the unaccompanied child program. And what's important to understand is, as far as the migrant children, not every single migrant child who's getting trafficked came through the UC program. There was a substantial open border and smuggling operation going on as well. So going through the UC program is just one vehicle to get trafficked kids or kids in the country to be trafficked. Smuggling is the traditional route as well. So the number is substantially higher. The problem is that's an unknown number, and that's something that has to be dealt with an intelligence solution. And by intelligence solution, I do mean like the U.S. government intelligence solution. So yeah, that's it as far as that answer. I want to be clear on that one, though. The number of missing kids is going to be a partially known number based on the data that we already kind of basically know about. So does that part make sense first off?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Because basically there's those that are reporting, and then there are those that were, I tend to think of it as gotaways, like that didn't go through the system.
Yeah, it's two simple classifications, the known knowns and the known unknowns. And that's basically what it is. So those are two buckets which we have to deal with. I think they will be very intertwined based on the child trafficking economy and how it operates. It's not exactly like gangs won't be dealing with, there's a lot of ways you can attack this thing, but it's going to require an intelligence solution. And I'm very hard on that one because I don't think that's in play. And I've been pushing very, very hard for a long time to get that in play. And if it is in play, it's not good enough. And that's my whole thing. But this is not the president's problem. It's not Mr. Holman's problem. I don't think it's RFK's or Secretary Noem's problem. I think this is a problem basically below that. It's not even just your political appointees that are getting positions right now, slowly getting positions, but this is more of your workforce. They don't have the right personnel in place, and they did not eliminate the corruption inside his agencies. So that's my main second point is, your policy will always be your personnel, and your personnel have not changed. So I want to make sure that's clear as well.
And, we played some clips earlier about Rasmussen numbers and the numbers going down rapidly for the Trump administration. And it's like, oh, what could this be? Like, the economy is going great. He's done a great job on the border. Like, must be Epstein. But I think deeper than that is the rot that we can still see. One of the disillusionments of the first Trump administration is he said he would drain the swamp. And we know it was deep and wide, and he didn't do it. And there's concern that he's not going to really do it this time either. We're continuing to see evidence of rot within so many agencies, even after folks like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who were sounding the alarm on this over and over again on all kinds of podcasts, that they might need to blow it up and start it over, and that now we're seeing a lack of transparency there. And we're seeing FBI whistleblowers that were not only not hired back, but are being said that they have character flaws. And then you had your own experience where, have you heard from them about the way that you can help?
No. So I've already applied numerous times through USA Jobs just for my old job back, right? And every time it doesn't even get to the interview section. They know who I am. They'll see my name once it gets past the computer, and then it's just chop, not happening. I did apply because ICE put out a call yesterday for Americans to Serve. So I did apply for a deportations officer and as well as a criminal investigator, both of which I qualify for. So we'll see what happens there. I've talked to obviously a lot of people that are either close to circles of power or media types, friends and colleagues, whatever. And I know people have lobbied on my behalf, but the results still been the same. But again, especially when it comes to those things, that hiring authorities do not come from high levels. Hiring authorities are handled by GS-14s at the lowest office possible. And I know the hiring offices and authorities have not changed personnel. And I've advocated for this from the get-go, from probably about March 2024 on. There has to be a concentrated effort, and I highly recommend they start utilizing the direct hire authority, because that's more important than just getting in all your nominations. Nominees can go as far as they can go. Your work is done by people. And that's where the bulk matters at. And 65% of feds, give or take, they don't care. They show up and do their job. Doesn't really matter. The next biggest population of feds are ideologues that are opposed to the president. So you got to figure out how to do with this thing, and it's going to require aggressive men, I think, to go in and do a job to clear out the rot. You don't need policy minds right now. You need, like, as I keep saying, you need a sergeant. You need somebody who is serious and who knows how to work in the trenches to do these things. It's not hard. I keep asking for it. I'm willing to serve, etc. It's just, it is what it is.
Trump has an incredible opportunity here, I think, because, well, the legacy media is trying to beat the drum of, oh, Trump might be a pedophile and he was in the Epstein files, and there's like frustration there. Ultimately, that comes from a righteous indignation of victimized children, and so if he put his attention on this issue, okay, let's find these missing kids. Let's get the best people in place to do investigations and rescue these kids that were victimized through the open border policies. I mean, I think that would speak volumes to the people that are frustrated with the lack of action on an old case, if you will, the Epstein case. Don't you agree?
I agree. And this thing, especially for the unaccompanied children in the HHS, that is a very solvable problem. And I'm just going to demonstrate that by understanding, if people recall J6, we all remember J6 and J7, they were kicking in doors. The US government is very effective and they are very efficient at what's called targeting, and I used to do this in the Marine Corps and the military and the DoD contracts I was on. We're very good at finding people. Now that was for overseas stuff, of course, but it's no different domestically for child trafficking networks. It's really, really not that hard. It just takes a different approach, and that approach is an intelligence solution first, and then incorporating the tools we already have. So maybe the border bill or the beautiful whatever it's called, maybe that's going to help out a lot because this will give you personnel. Cool, but the solution has to come from dominating the information space to understanding what the networks actually look like, because you can't just go. And I'm prefacing this very, very strongly right now. You cannot go knock on the door that the child said they were going to be at HHS, because you're not going to traffic a child out of the door that they said they're going to be at. So when a child got delivered to a sponsor, that kid's going to be moved by the sponsor. So just going to the address of the last known location is a bad idea. What you do instead is you target the trafficker, you target the sponsor. These are simple measures. This is not novel. It's something that we've done for a long time. It just requires this kind of personnel and those kind of jobs. And that doesn't exist. Right now in HHS, yeah, there's some immigration people. Yeah, there's some border people, but they're not an intelligence and a targeting mindset in the regard of like going out and finding people. And it can be done. So all these, and the number I think that the HHS OIG came out with was 13,000 and some change since the inauguration. And I suspect the majority of that number are going to be either kids that aged out and they probably got caught up in deportation raids. So these were over 18-year-olds, probably young men. And I'm assuming a lot of these kids were not kids to begin with. They were like young men who reported themselves to be 17 to fraudulently go through the UC program to go into their like labor pools, whatever. I think that's the majority. I've looked at the daily UAC stats. It kind of supports that narrative. It doesn't support a widespread effective rate of going after, child sex victims or, tender age kids in trafficking environments. And I'm saying that also because of the way Fox News, and everybody else, I'm not dunking on Fox News, but everybody flipped out over finding 4 or 8 kids on a marijuana farm. They stumbled across those kids. They were not targeted. And there's a more effective way of delivering this. And that's my entire message. I'm not saying that, I'm upset that we found 13,000 kids. I think we should be better. I think we should be more aggressive. And I will die on that hill, and I will never, ever, ever alleviate from that, because I think that's the most important thing for us to be doing. So
100%. And there's so many that would agree with you. And I think that's an incredible point that, we saved more kids, but like you said, they were stumbled upon. They weren't even there wasn't an operation to save those children. And then you wonder how big this is, because you see stories like the horrific story that came out of Alabama of kids, I believe 3 to 10 years old, that were rescued from being trafficked in a random area. And I tried reading all these articles, whose kids are these? Where did they come from? And so I still don't know if that has anything to do with the migrant children, that story in particular. But if that is going on there, and that they just stumbled upon being able to rescue those kids. Like how much is happening in the dark? How much is clouded in secrecy? Why didn't we get any direction of where those kids came from?
I'm sorry, it's not the dark. It's us choosing to keep it dark. The two biggest populations of children being trafficked in this country are going to come from the unaccompanied child program and kids who've gone through CPS and the foster care system. HHS has dominance and authority over both of those populations. One, they completely control, which is why I'm so focused on that one. I'm also very smart on this one. That's why I'm so focused on it. But that's a central entity. You can use so much to do so much because it's a federal centralized thing. It's really easy to use. I'll acknowledge the CPS and foster care networks. Those are decentralized. They're not exactly like one central thing. However, due to its reliance on Title 40 funding, there is a lot you can do to quickly gain information dominance there as well. So being in the dark to me is doesn't exist. That's us choosing to not turn the lights on. That's us choosing to not be the ones that are doing the things that need to be done. We can be doing better. We should be doing better. I advocate for doing better. I have proposed numerous solutions on how to be doing things better, but all I can do right now is just, stay sidelined, stay a fired whistleblower, and that's it. That's all I can do.
Can you review the conditions under which you were fired? Like, how were they able to fire you? What did it? I mean, whistleblowers are supposed to have certain protections. This certainly isn't going to encourage others to speak up when they see things. So can you kind of just review that and remind us what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, everything I blew the whistle on publicly, I first went to the government first to try to solve this thing. Like, I did not just run to the media and be like, look, guys, child trafficking. I called every entity of DHS, every entity of the Transnational Organized Crime Working Group, every entity of DOJ, to include the FBI. I called a lot of people being like, hey, guys, I'm seeing, child trafficking here. Are you guys tracking this? This is a government, program of record, which means like everything's audited and cataloged, and like we all got our eyes on it. It's systematic. It's organized also inside the intelligence apparatus, which means it's part of a cycle and a system. So like people are tracking these things, and nobody was. So when I pushed and pressed hard on these things, and no one did anything with it, that was my decision to go like, all right, well then the system can't work. Therefore I'll take it public, which is a qualified protection still. The government argues that well, first off, I wasn't allowed to have an attorney. That's a whole different story. But the government argues that, I divulged the personal identifiable information of, like asylum seekers. And my response is no. I'm showing you child trafficking because the people that are seeking asylum are using asylum so that way they can stay in the country legally while they traffic children. That was demonstrated very clear. The pattern was obvious, and the government ignored me on that one. And there was also the two other things I blew the whistle on. Long story short, when I was fired, they didn't say I lied. They didn't say I was wrong. They didn't say I made it all up. They didn't say anything like that. And they wrongfully fired me because they violated U.S. code prior to me even blowing the whistle. They're supposed to offer, DHS and USCIS are supposed to offer like public access on our own working sites to get to the protected channels for whistleblowing. And we still don't do that. I took screenshots, like didn't happen then. It's not happening now. And on top of that, there's still, I think 5 US code out there talks about, there's a standing US code about retaliation and reinstatement and everything else for whistleblowers. Like I qualify for that, but I can't get USCIS to call me back. I can't get them to respond to a lawyer. I can't get DHS to do the same thing. All the people that are allegedly lobbying on my behalf in order to get these, justices corrected and to be made whole, as has been said, there's no response there either. So I don't know anymore as that one. I talked to somebody recently. They seemed pretty hopeful. They were very positive. Good dude. He's in the administration. And again, I've applied to the ICE openings for deportations and for criminal investigators. I applied for both of those things. My 6 times going to Iraq and Afghanistan kind of qualified me for all those things, but also identifying the biggest child trafficking trend in the UC program based on 3 cases establishes my ability to also be a criminal investigator as well. So I'm trying as hard as I can, but I cannot hire myself. Neither can the fired FBI whistleblowers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
This is so disgusting, and it definitely needs more attention. I mean, there's so many things running through my mind right now, like to be in your shoes and to be trying to blow the whistle on something so sick and not seeing action, for me, it would make me want to turn into a vigilante and be like, I'll save him myself then. Like, God's sakes, you know what I mean?
I want to clarify this. There is no action because the right people are not there. This is not a better system because Tara Rodas and myself are not inside of HHS or DHS doing this work. The FBI has all their problems because people like Gerda Boyle, Steve Friend, Marcus Salem, Kyle Seraphin, Phil Kennedy, because they're not back. If they had authority to go in and find corruption, find the bad actors, they would do it quickly and efficiently. Same thing with Tara Rodas, DHS. Same thing with me at DHS. Your policy is always going to be your personnel. At the end of the day, that's I think a blanket statement, which is black and white, very, very true. So,
and you know what, Aaron, it's something Dan Bongino used to say on his podcast all the time. So what's going on? You're the deputy director. Why are you not bringing the good personnel back? Like, it's just it makes me so angry.
Well, again, we're trying as hard as we can, but it was not very popular to be a whistleblower in 2021 and 2022, et cetera. And it's still not right now, but it is what it is.
The power structure still has not been fixed by any degree. Let me ask you this. So you mentioned some people are talking about we need to make the whistleblowers whole again. Who are those people so we can call them out for, like, if you're going to say this, then what are you doing to help? And what efforts?
Yeah, I don't want to do it publicly only because maybe they're just slow. And I'm not trying to be like, I don't try to counter signal administration. Like, I'm not opposed to the president. I voted for him, 6 times now, 3 primary and 3 in the general. But yeah, I won't say publicly only because I
want to think that they're actually working on this.
Well, it's maybe they're just slow. And to be fair, that's one thing I've been trying to argue with, not argue in a bad way, but my argument is to my colleagues saying things like, guys, maybe they're just trying their best right now and this is the best that they can deliver. And that's okay, which still demonstrates the necessity to be bringing people in who are the actual true experts to do the jobs. That's why I don't advocate for myself to try to become some kind of crazy high level political appointee or like an SES or even a 15. Like, I was a 14-6. I was not that high. And I was good at what I did. I'm really good at doing work and, being the aggressor in a lot of things. I'm trying to go back to my job. I'm trying to solve the things that I blew the whistle on because I'm probably one of the smartest guys in the room on the things I blew the whistle on. That's why those things haven't been corrected. This is immigration corruption. This is immigration benefits fraud. This is deep state corruption. This is the child trafficking epidemic, all those things. I'm just trying to do what I can do in those regards. I don't want to get, famous or notoriety out of this. I'm not trying to be a media personality. And I promise you, I will never be running for political office. If you ever follow me on Twitter, I think you'll understand why. I'm trying to do what I'm good at. And again, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I guess, maybe they're trying their best and this is the best they can deliver. And that's, you have to accept things that are true.
Well, is there anything that we can do, those of us that are angry that this is being slow walked, that our beloved whistleblowers are still not restored? Is there anything that we can do to channel our anger into something productive to try and get the ball rolling?
I mean, my immediate and always reaction to this is going to be, of course, please pray for us. That's always going to be the first and foremost. I don't believe in public pressure campaigns. They fail too much. I don't believe in, like a hashtag war. It just doesn't work. If you have access to power, if you are anywhere close to power, if you are any of those things, it would help out. But also, by the way, that goes too for the media. And this is not you guys. I've talked to LindellTV numerous times. First time with you, and I'm obviously very thankful. But I've been gatekept by probably the majority of, conservative, if you want to call it that, media. I've been obviously gatekept by everybody else. I called my hometown station, WGN, and was like, hey guys, child trafficking epidemic. I've got 5 whistleblowers. Let's do a conversation and we can talk about what's going on out there. They ghosted me. So if you have access to power or access to broadcast, if you will, that's probably helpful. But yeah, I don't. That's, and also the idea of a pressure campaign. That's me saying I don't want to do that because, again, I don't believe it delivers results. I won't tell people what to do in that regard. But if you have access to power, I think you should be using it. Please lobby, please leverage, please initiate meetings, because my problem with this thing is, for the child trafficking specifically, children are being raped, children are being sold for sex. And I will never celebrate, ever. Even when we get the last kid, even when we get, that take down the last network, even when we destroy all the NGOs and all the infrastructure that they use to traffic, I will never celebrate. We need to get people in place now to take care of the problems now. So in other words, get serious people in serious positions doing serious things. And that's what I advocate for.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to let that sit with folks. Get serious people doing serious things. And ultimately, we all want these children rescued and good people back in place. Thank you, Aaron Stevenson, for that information, and keep us updated.
Thank you. Always. Christ is King.
Yes, absolutely. God bless. All right. We will see if there is time to get into some more immigration news. But first, let's hear from those that make this show possible.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
And welcome back to DC Dispatch. Only have a couple minutes left, but that was a heavy interview that we just had. So let's lighten things up and stay on topic. But if you haven't seen this video yet of that ISIS put out, you got to see the way they're promoting what they're doing right now. Watch this.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4. Book now with Jet2 Holidays.
Gotta love it, right? Gotta bring some levity to the situation. Certainly, we are having to clean up a huge mess. Disgusting story. Just recently saw transgender migrant Nicole Suarez, 30, appearing in court, accused of raping a 14-year-old boy in a New York City park bathroom back in February, facing serious charges like first-degree rape. The boy flagged down help after the attack at Thomas Jefferson Park, and locals are furious, with one deli owner calling it disgusting. That is an understatement. Some are saying this could have been avoided if Suarez had been deported earlier, given his illegal entry status and prior arrest record, which raises big questions about border security. Judge Janine Pirro is coming up with a strategy to really target these sanctuary cities. We'll probably hear some more from her tomorrow, because like I said, I'm running out of time. But one quick note before I go, remember Mike Lindell, he has really been seeing God's favor with these cases, and he's really trying to grow this network. You just heard Aaron Stevenson talk about how other supposed conservative media have not been as responsive in advocating or wanting to even hear these stories. So we're going to keep it real always for you here, and with no agenda. And please continue to support Mike Lindell in those efforts. Be praying for him, and you can always donate to his defense at givesendgo.com/Lindell. Well, thank you so much for watching DC Dispatch. Keep it locked in here, because there's hours and hours more of coverage here on LindellTV White House Coverage Live.
I'm pointing morning to Mike Lindell. That man suffered. That man suffered. The FBI thugs went up to him and they took away everything he had. He suffered. And Mrs. Lindell.
Then you guys come up and serve me papers in Colorado.
What is this? Sir, what is this? My Pillow guy Mike Lindell says the lawsuit is a sham.
How dare him come and sue My Pillow?
They went after him. It was just terrible. This was a vicious weaponization of your government. But he's all, I'll tell you, he stood up. He's all man. He stood up strong.
Do I think you guys and them are a traitor to our country by what you did to My Pillow? Yes. We are made in America.
Lindell says he's lost hundreds of millions of dollars.
And nothing was going to faze him. And I want to thank you on behalf of everybody, Mike. You put up with a tremendous amount.
How do you guys sleep at night? You obviously don't have a My Pillow. That's a fact.
He's a great guy.